All right.
Rock,
Am I
paper,
starting or
scissors.
are you starting? I don't think we know. Let's what should we do? Ooh, I like that. Rock, paper, scissors. Okay, so we go rock, paper, scissors, shoot, and then you do your thing. It has to be on the shoot thing though. You can't
I was ready.
No, you weren't. Here we go. Ready? Rock. Come on, you got to do it with me. What is there? A delay? Ready? One, two, three. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Okay,
You're
again.
you're delayed.
No, I
Ready?
had I had the scissors.
I did too. Ready? Ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Yeah, I
Oh,
would.
you win. You're the starter,
Right.
or maybe you get to
Uh,
choose who starts.
no, I'm started.
Ooh. All right. Here we go.
Oh, oh my gosh, guys. Hi, happy morning. It's a Monday. Uh, and John and I are just being goofy because we can be.
Because
And it's a
that's how
Monday.
you should treat Mondays. Little
Yes,
goofy.
a little goofy. Always try to start off on a positive mindset. I hate the mindset that like the Monday blues.
I do too. Mondays
Yeah,
are like this awesome time to attack the week. It's like,
yeah.
let's do this.
It's a new, fresh week. And like, if you come into it with like a negative mindset, like you're just going to have a negative week if that's how you start it. So happy Monday
If
for
you would have broke
those.
into tears at that moment, that would have been like epic. Like, you got to start with a positive mindset. And you start crying.
That would have been
Oh,
kind of funny. You're right. But no, this is a happy day. And if you're not listening to this on a Monday, it's also a happy day. So hopefully you are having a good day. And if not, forget what already happened that was negative. Let's start off on a
Re-
good foot.
repeat after us. Monday's a happy day. And just kind of grit
Why
your
are
teeth.
you
Huh?
why are you gritting your teeth?
Well, that's you grit your teeth and you say something you don't like really mean it. When your like parents said, tell your brother or sister that you love them. You're like, I love you, and you're still kind
Facts.
of angry. And you're. Did that ever happen to you? That's
Uh
probably
yeah.
that's probably like not the best parenting technique. But this is not a parenting podcast. But
It is
that,
not.
yeah. So let's get moving. Let's
Oh
get
my gosh.
moving.
All right, guys. We are hopping on here. We're talking about metabolism today. All right. Oof, this one is a fun, sticky subject with lots and lots of media and social media uh, hacks and advice on your metabolism. So, John and I are going to talk about the nitty gritty today. We're going to talk about the science. We're going to debunk a couple of things. We're going to tell you what your metabolism actually does, how it works, how you can keep it healthy and running well. So, we're going to dive right in. So, the basics of metabolism is basically it's the chemical process of breaking down food and using it for energy, right? That's the simplified version. All right, a little bit more scientific like description of your metabolism is it refers to the chemical processes that occur within living organisms and it's needed in order to sustain life. All right. So it involves the conversion of food to fuel various physiological functions and the building blocks and breakdown of molecules necessary for growth, repair, and maintenance of all cells in the living organism. Right? So humans have metabolism, animals have metabolism. Um, and technically, like trees and plants have their own version of metabolism as well. So, John, let's break down kind of into like a little bit about metabolism and let's get some of like this cool science as our
Yeah,
basis
yeah.
today.
So like when it comes to like metabolism, most people think of like it's taking your food and convert it to energy. But
Right.
that's just like one aspect of metabolism. So everything that's happening in you, like all the chemical processes that are taking place, is all related to your metabolism. And so that's important. You have like anabolism, catabolism, cannibal, eat each other. That's not what I'm talking about. But there's a constructive phase where larger molecules are built from smaller ones.
Right.
It includes processes such as the synthesis of protein. That is the destructive phase where larger molecules are broken down into smaller ones, releasing energy. So it's really important to note that energy, you probably learned this in like beginning of science, like energy can not be created or destroyed.
Right.
So when you're consuming food, your body's going to do something with it, store it or release it. And your metabolism has a lot to do with that process. So the rate at which these metabolic processes occur is influenced by like several different factors that we're going to get into. And this is what's interesting is that people kind of hijack this conversation. They talk about metabolism, and then they're basically saying, "Hey, if you're eating these types of foods, like it's going to shut down your metabolism. Like
Right.
it's going to crash." And
It's a
then
metabolism killer.
the way to jumpstart it to really boost it, and they normally have like a couple of food items, and all of the
Yeah.
stuff usually has like an element of truth to it. Like, okay, does it actually boost your metabolism? Maybe marginally it does, but it's just kind of approaching the whole conversation like, how do we hack the system versus like, what's the true science behind metabolism?
Right.
So we want to talk about things like today, like, can you actually like wreck your metabolism? Can
Hmm.
you slow it down, speed it up? And some of the language I think is semantics,
Hmm.
and I think
Very much.
you could argue some of this language, but then also the way it's used, articulated, we would argue against how it's being articulated, but the general idea being true. So we want to dive into a couple of things that actually can affect your metabolism. And so to kind of, before we get into some of those things, let me just clarify. When we talk about your metabolism and the rate in which you take food and it converts to energy, and also that energy being released or used, we're talking about metabolism, but we're also talking about your metabolic rate.
Yeah.
And usually when you go to lose weight, and this is why it ties into fat loss here, when you go to lose weight, we're trying to figure out like, what is your basic metabolic rate? Where does that fall?
Hmm.
And there's a couple of ways that we measure that, but we're that basic metabolic rate is like basically how much energy are you converting and using at a resting state,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
And
Like if you were not to move out of bed at all throughout the day, the amount of calories or energy that you need in order to just live.
yeah, like
That's the basic rate, right?
yeah, everything that the all the chemical processes that are happening in your body, tissue turnover, breathing, your heart
Breathing. That's
pumping, all that kind of
necessary.
stuff. Um, to keep that all of that going, it's using energy. So how much energy are you using um, at that resting place? And what
Right.
what people do is we figure out like what that is, and then we also figure out your activity level, which has a play in you also burning energy or using energy. And then we try to figure out, okay, so then how many calories, which are units of energy, do
Yeah.
you need in a day to stay the same weight, or if you want to put on more weight or more muscle, how much surplus you need, or in our case, when we're talking about fat loss, how much calories you need to be in a deficit. All of that
Right.
is hinging off of understanding metabolism, metabolic rate, and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people, when they're going to lose weight, they feel like, hey, I feel like I'm in a deficiency here. Like I'm eating fewer calories, but I'm not losing the weight. And then you
Yeah.
jump on Google and you're like, why am I not losing the weight? And Google
Mm.
says, or somebody, these articles will say,
Your metabolism's
oh,
slow.
yes, your metabolism is slow and
Mm.
you need to fix it. And then you get taken on a whirlwind of
Yes.
all these different hacks.
Information.
And you're like, why isn't this working for me? This is why we're doing this podcast. This particular episode, this is we want to help you understand metabolism, how it is affected, and also we're going to try to work through all the nonsense. So,
Yes.
Amber, can you help us with things that can influence our metabolism? Like truly what can influence our metabolism?
Yes. So first, I'm going to start off with your metabolism generally regulates itself. Okay. So the whole term of slow metabolism and things like that is a false statement. All right. So your body is meant to regulate how much energy you output, and that's based off of age, sex, muscle mass, physical activity, hormones, and factors like that. And your body just takes care of itself. All right. We're built for survival. So your metabolism is going to ebb and flow according to those factors for the most part, unless you have something like Cushing's disease or hypothyroidism or things like that. But the likelihood of you having those is slim to none. And that's something you need to discuss with your doctor, right? Because those aren't like super common like issues, right? And usually you have a lot of symptoms that go along with it, not just a slow metabolism. All right. That's like a slow metabolism with those two issues in particular is like the least of your worries. So you're looking at things like age. Okay. So a lot of people, once they hit their 30s, they're like, my metabolism isn't what it used to be. 100%. That's totally true. But we're talking in your 30s, your metabolism slows down by less than 5%. So it's really not a big change. Okay. So I love y'all, but blaming your metabolism for your weight loss issues on age, it really is not a good, it's not a very valid foundational argument. Only until you get older than 40, every decade, your metabolism slows down about 5%. So for easy math, by the time you're 70, your metabolism is 70% of what it was when you were 20. So that's not bad, all right? But age does play a factor, okay? So then, therefore, all right, change up your eating a little bit, right? Because eating is really where it's at, but we'll come back around to that. Your sex. If you are male, you naturally have a bigger bone mass. You naturally have more muscle mass, and you naturally are bigger, right? Also, men have testosterone on their side, so that's also helpful. So men's metabolism is naturally faster, which women, interestingly enough, we often complain that men can ebb and flow in weight so quickly. Their muscle mass size and testosterone levels is a huge factor in that. But also, women were naturally meant to carry more weight. And we're naturally meant to carry more weight, especially in the hips and thighs region, because of childbirth and carrying children. That extra weight is needed fuel and essentially emergency fuel for pregnancy and things like that our body just naturally holds on to. So keep that in mind, that when you're frustrated that your significant other is ebbing and is dropping the weight like crazy, they were not meant for what we are meant for. So that is a big, massive difference as far as metabolism goes. But ladies, if you want to increase your metabolism, doing things like building muscle and keeping a healthy gut, which again we'll touch in on, is very helpful. Then hormones. We'll touch in on hormones, kind of like what I said. Hormone health, super, super crucial. All right. So men and women, different hormones, but regardless, hormone health and keeping everything balanced, that is massive. And a lot of that, there's so many chemical processes that happen in our bodies. It's just like, it's mind blowing. But if we are not eating well, if we are not eating enough, that jacks up our hormones. And it does not matter if you're female or male. Like, if that jacks up your hormones, then everything is not going to be running optimally. So that's a factor. And lastly, physical activity is a factor. All right. The more physically active you are, your body needs more energy, which means your metabolism, quote unquote, revs up a little bit in order to keep up with processing food and energy to fuel your activities. And then when you stop the activities, it slows back down. Think about kind of like almost the turning of a wheel in that aspect. The faster you go in a car, the faster that wheel turns. The slower you go, the slower the wheel turns. And you need more gas or less gas in that. Mm-hmm. So the more physically active, your metabolism is going to run a little bit faster just to fuel those activities, things like that. So, again, we'll recap real quick: sex, age, hormones, muscle mass, and physical activity. Those are like the influencers of your metabolism, the biggest influencers.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's super helpful. So, like with the age, 5% changing, basically, give or take each decade.
Yep.
Um, is there, is that just like this is going to happen regardless of what I do, or could that actually change based on food intake, nutrition, exercise, sleep
So
habit?
it is a natural phenomenon. You need basically our peak of aging right now is in your 30s, and then your body naturally declines at that point. So your body just requests less and less energy. Um, Now, if you stay physically active, you can still work with like your natural decline, which sounds very like a very aggressive word, but it is normal. It is natural. It is life, but it does like slow down just a little bit. And you can slow it down less. I think the actual science behind it is like it slows down approximately 5%. So the healthier you are, the better. And by healthier, I mean the more physically active you are as you age, and the better that you eat as you age. Your metabolism will stay in better shape for longevity.
Gotcha. So there is a little bit of like slowing the process. Natural, I mean, there's a natural decline, but there's
Right.
a way to kind of push against, which is like
Yeah.
um, there's a natural like losing of body mass, um, muscle mass over time.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do resistance training, you can
You
actually
can slow
resist
it down.
that. Maybe not totally stop it, but
Right.
you're definitely helping slow that process down. That's really interesting.
Yes.
So a couple of things that like to kind of tie this specifically into fat loss. So it's like, okay, I not much I could do about the aging aspect or the sex that I am,
Right.
um, but like what are a couple of things that I need to think about like when it comes to my metabolism and losing weight. And I think one of the biggest things that people can actually control, and one of the things I've been reading recently, I like to read philosophers, and
Mm-hmm.
I've been reading some Stoic philosophers, and one of the Stoic philosophers said like one of the chief disciplines in life is actually realizing what is out of your control, externals,
Right.
and what is actually like in your control, what you can change. And so, like, I'm trying to bring that philosophical axiom into this conversation, say, okay, what can we control? What can we not control? And I'm thinking one of the big movers is actually the what we eat. And that's what you said is one
Yeah.
of the fundamental things. Not just like what we eat, but also how much of it we're eating.
Yep.
And I think this kind of ties into this aspect of why we push so hard against extreme diets.
Yes.
Because here's what the logic happens for a lot of people. They realize, oh, if I'm in a caloric deficit, I'm going to lose weight. Okay, that's true. If I do an extreme caloric deficit, I am really going to lose weight fast.
Mm.
That is also true at the beginning.
Yeah.
Initially
At the
you will
very
lose,
beginning.
yeah, you'll lose weight, but then this is what you need to know. Your metabolism is going to adapt to your energy intake.
Yep.
And basically, it's doing this because it's funny, our brain is saying, I want to lose this fat so that I would look sexy or fit or whatever, or just feel better maybe initially,
Right.
even though extreme diets are not a good way to help you feel better. Anyways, but our body's like, oh no, we must be hitting scarcity and famine. There's not a
Yeah.
lot of food. We're not eating as much. So your body goes into starvation mode. And it's not like your metabolism is being destroyed or crashing or something like that. It's just regulating. It's just like it's going to regulate so that it's actually consuming less energy. Great example of this. Like, and we do this naturally. Let's just say I lost my job, something like that.
Yeah.
Now I have zero cash flow at the moment. So what do? I actually go and I look at all of my like typical budget items and think, what can I cut right now,
Right.
um, to so that I'm spending less money at this time. So I might like cancel Netflix and Disney Plus, and I might cancel whatever it may be. It may be other things that I'm trying to cut corners. I may like say, hey, when I go to the grocery store, I'm probably not going to buy steak right now. It's a little more expensive. I'll just buy chicken or something like that for a source of protein. I'm trying to
Right.
find everything I can. Let's cut out these types of foods. Let me be really streamlined. I'm not going to drive as much. You got what I'm saying.
Yes.
So I'm
Yeah.
learning. I'm cutting back on all of the expenditure because I don't have that cash flow. That's like, well,
Right.
that's pretty smart. Well, yeah, and that's exactly what your body is doing. It's adjusting to, oh, we don't have much intake right now, so it just automatically adjusts to that,
Right.
and it makes us frustrated because we go in this extreme caloric deficit. We lose maybe a significant weight at first, and then we plateau. We're like,
Yep.
I thought I was in a deficit, but
I
actually,
thought I was doing good.
so this is called, like, a technical term for this is adaptive thermogenesis.
Yes.
And this is when the body has this ability to adjust its energy expenditure in response to a change in caloric intake, helping to maintain energy balance and body weight. So your body's like, I don't want you to lose this weight. This is how we survive. So it changes how it burns or how much energy you burn. So you end up staying at the same weight. And you're like, what happens? And this is why people say they use language like, oh, your metabolism crashed. But it's really not precise language. And then the answer to the crashing is usually placebo, you
Right.
know, effect. And
Yeah.
that's not the way to go. But a couple of things that I want to draw to our attention too, that extreme, that can kind of play into metabolism not functioning optimally would
Yeah.
be when you go on an extreme diet, um, uh, adipose tissue or fat
Yeah.
requires less energy to stay around
Yes, it
than
does.
lean muscle mass. So
Right.
your body's like, oh man, we're in starvation mode. Man, it's taking a lot of energy to hold on to this muscle.
Yes.
So let's release the muscle. And guess what? You're like maintaining the fat. So
Yeah. And
normally,
that's kind of where like that term skinny fat comes in, right?
yeah,
When your
yeah, you
when your
just,
body is getting rid of muscle.
yeah. And I mean, this is not everything that we're talking about. It's not all about your physique per se, but a lot of
Right.
people, when they lose weight, they're trying to get a better physique. And if you want to have a better physique, extreme diets is not the way to go
No.
because you'll end up just looking really, really flat. Your muscles, you'll be losing, it'll be depleted. And, but you lose that muscle mass. If you lose muscle mass, you're actually, by default, you're actually burning less calories. So it's actually playing into your metabolism as well. So not only does it adjust just naturally, if you lose more muscle mass, your metabolic rate is going to change from that. And then a lot of times with these extreme diets, there's a nutrient deficiency, like low proteins, but it's just low across the board. Like,
Yep.
it could be carbohydrates and fats as well. This could affect your metabolic rate. Your energy's low,
Yep.
and because your energy's low, this is interesting. Man, this is so fascinating. When you're on an extreme diet, your body's like, oh, you need to consume less energy. So where you're normally
Mm-hmm.
like a little bit more pep in your step, a little energetic, when somebody says, hey, could you come help me? You're the type that, like, you just hop up and go, type of thing. But now you're like, oh man, I got to get up, and
Yeah.
you're like slow to move. And even when you're sitting, you're just like really super still. Well, that's actually your body trying to slow you down so you expend less energy, so it preserves itself.
Yeah.
And so you have less energy. And this what this actually calculates to is, one, slower weight loss over time. I mean, you get that initial drop, but you get slower weight loss, and your body you've conditioned your body to now increase fat storage.
Mm,
So if you're just like, forget this, I need to eat more, and you start to move up in calories, you are going to gain some weight initially. Like, I mean, even if you're still in a bit of a deficiency, you start to
right,
move back up, you're going to gain some weight. And it's just because the way you approached your fat loss journey is you tried to do it fast, extreme, and it's just not good for your body. It just doesn't
right.
respond well. So we're going to move into in a second how to, like, if this is you, like I described, you're like, oh, dip, I did this. I'm in this spot. How do I get out of it? How do I fix this? We're going to help you. But Amber, do you
Yeah.
want to add anything to like these extreme diets and how it affects your metabolism, maybe even from a trainer's perspective?
Ooh. So honestly, if you've been working with like on an extreme diet or you just don't eat a lot, one of the things that I have definitely seen in my few years of training was um, some of my overweight clients. It was not an it was at one point an overeating issue. All right, that's how you gain the fat, right? But then naturally, a lot of people will be like, okay, I need to eat less. I need to eat less, and they would actually undereat to the extreme point that their metabolism was had adapted to working slowly because they were not eating enough to even have weight loss. They might have lost a little bit of weight, but then kind of like what John said is they hit this plateau, but they're still 50 plus pounds overweight. And I was like, well, that's because you're not eating enough to even lose the weight. And people are like, wait, what? Not eating enough to lose the weight? Yeah, because of metabolic adaptation, your body is, like John said, in that survival mode. It is not letting go of its energy resources. It does not know how long it's going to be sitting in this caloric deficit, in this lack of energy intake. And so we would do what is called reverse dieting. Um, and the simple description of that would be reverse dieting is increasing your calories slowly over the course of a few weeks up into the point of what they should be. And believe it or not, most of my clients actually saw weight loss in the increase of calories because then their system kind of got up and working to where it was supposed to be. Plus, they had
Mm,
the exercise that I had them going through. Plus, they increased, their daily walking and things like that. And then their metabolism was actually started to work at an optimal level. Now, please notate that this took months of work to actually see. Like we would start seeing results after like 3 to 4 weeks, but reverse dieting takes months to optimize to get you back up to where you're supposed to be, essentially to get your brain out of that starvation mode, and your metabolism out of that starvation mode. It takes time, and
mm,
people don't want to hear that. People want to hear, I can lose 20 pounds in 6 weeks.
mhm,
But the reality is if you did not have good eating habits before going on one of those extreme shreds, that's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. If you've done one of those extreme diets and you're like, I lost 5 pounds, they promised 20, that means that you had an eating issue before you did that shred. So,
Ooh, that's a
I,
really, really good point.
yeah,
So somebody's tried like a tons of different diets. They come to you,
yeah,
and in normal circumstances, you might say you can expect to lose this much, but then you're starting to realize, oh, they actually have been on this, and I'm sure you do some pre-assessment on
I do a
this.
lot of pre-assessment in my coaching. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, hey, what diets have you been on? What time length? When was the last time you were on this? Is probably all
Mm-hmm.
big, important questions. Just like you would when you're like, what training have you done? And you're also assessing muscular imbalances and all this stuff. You're also on the diet nutrition side of things. You're kind of evaluating that as well. That's really fascinating.
Yeah.
Um, so you talked about reverse dieting.
Mhm.
What is a typical, do you typically take someone, so if they were at 1,000 calorie deficit from an
Mm,
extreme diet or more,
yeah.
um, what does reverse dieting look like? I'll give you an example so you can kind of see where I'm going. So do you go say, okay, you're 1,000 calorie deficit right now. We're gonna move up 200 calories and slowly move up in calories all the way up? Would you have an initial kind of bigger jump? Like, okay,
Mm,
we're gonna jump up 500 and we're gonna make sure that you're eating high protein. So you're adjusting macronutrients to be healthier,
right.
and you're also just getting volume in overall calories. Do you have it might range differently with different people, but do you have a process for reverse dieting?
Yeah. So it is going to depend on like how bad their deficit is. And so I have all of my clients when they start with me track their food so I can see where they're coming from. So I can see their nutrition. What are they eating? What are they reaching for? And then what's the macronutrient breakdown? I think the worst case that I've ever worked with was about a 1,200, 1,300 calorie deficit. And it was over a long period of time from what I could tell. And so we worked on about a 250 to 300 calorie increase. Now that took weeks though, like for them to like hit that increase. So for them to hit, I think it was like about 1,600 calories was the increase. Um, it took them about 3 weeks to like get that down, to like actually be hitting those numbers on a daily basis. And then once they hit those numbers, then I increase it again. So um, it really depends on the client. It depends on how serious they are. It's a lot of coaching, a lot of encouraging them to like, hey, add this to your diet, add this to your diet. I had one client, I was like, I need you to add half of an avocado to your day. Like, please eat half an avocado. And it was an encouragement, but it was a struggle for them because when you log half an avocado and it's like 130 some calories, that is scary. But I'm like, trust me, you need this. Your hormones need this. Like this half avocado is going to help you. It's not going to hinder you. And it's a whole process. And it really depends on like where they're coming from mentally on eating as well.
Mm.
But yeah, it took about 3 weeks to get them up to 1,600 calories, and then I had to increase it again. So yeah, it's a process for sure.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was several years ago. I was training with like a pro bodybuilder,
Mm,
and he was kind of helping me with like physique goals type of
yeah,
thing. And I was wanting to go into like just getting shredded phase,
yeah,
and he actually did that, which actually it was the first time, and this was years ago. It was the first time that I got introduced to like a reverse dieting idea.
mm,
But I was like, all right, I want to get shredded. He's like, great. We're gonna eat a lot more food for the first couple weeks.
yeah,
And like seriously, he actually brought me all the way up to a surplus diet, not even all the way to maintenance.
yeah,
Like I was eating more. It's just like, bro, scale's going the other way. It's like, trust me, just stick with the process. And I think
yes.
part of that, it might be he wasn't necessarily a nutritionalist or something like that, but
I would say if
his,
he did pro bodybuilding, he had enough experience in,
yeah, yeah. So
yeah,
but he was able to like bring me up to the place where if there was any type of metabolic issue, like it kind of brought me up to where I needed to be, and then he started to be on the right path for a caloric deficit
yeah,
slowly, and it was great. It was really super helpful, but it was counterintuitive to me. And so for those listening in, it might you might try this, and if you need help, we would be glad to help you with that. By the way, you can reach out to us. We can help you with a nutritional plan, or even like one-on-one coaching if that would be helpful to you. Just shameless plug here. If you need help, we'd love to help you. um, but yes, this could really change your life and get you off of these all endless pursuit of looking for hacks. So before we
Yeah.
move into a little bit more details of how you could actually, uh, you know, heal that your metabolism or bring it back to where it's functioning optimally, what are some hacks, Amber, that we need to just crush? Like I was just looking at, I'll give you something. I'll bring one up and you tell me if this is good information, okay? Won't tell you where it's from. We won't do any hate here. But I pulled up an article and they gave 8 ways to boost your metabolism. And
Yeah. Oh gosh.
one of these awesome hacks that you could do is drink green tea
Mm.
or I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but is it oolong tea?
Oolong. Yeah.
Oolong, okay.
Yeah.
Tea, oolong tea. This is the miracle drink that will
Yeah.
increase fat burning. It'll ramp up your metabolism. Is this true? Is this the magic? Is this what I've been missing?
It's an extreme stretch of the imagination, is really what it is. Okay, so basically, those two teas have caffeine in them. That's the boil down. All right. Caffeine, does caffeine increase your metabolism? It does speed up your metabolic rate by a fraction of a percent. And when I mean a fraction of a percent, I mean a fraction of a percent. So do not go out and buy these teas just for weight loss. If you like drinking them, that's fine. But at most, 100 to 200 milligrams of caffeine burns an additional 30 to 50 calories a day. It's nothing. It's literally nothing. So it's not worth drinking high amounts of caffeine to attempt to burn an additional few hundred calories over the course of a week. By the way, not in a day, over the course of a week. Actually, just changing up your eating would have significantly higher effects.
Yeah, so it's kind of like this. It's so small that
It's
we're
so
missing
small.
like the big movers. Yeah, it's not really one of the big movers.
No.
But would you
Caffeine
say like
pills, green tea pills, y'all are wasting your money.
yeah, sure, sure. Oh man, like 99% of supplementation is either just a waste of time or
Mm-hmm.
overhyped for
Extremely.
sure.
Extremely.
Maybe we'll do a podcast on like supplementation and
Yep.
like what's actually worth buying,
Right.
type of a thing. But a lot of this is just it's not worth it. I would say I know that some like physique coaches will talk about using caffeine or having a certain amount of caffeine. And I think if you're
So
if you're
that
going
is to increase energy because of lack of actual like intake of energy, like intake of food. Because
yeah,
if you're a physique coach, like that's to like help boost the energy
yeah, because
more
you're
than
so
anything.
yeah, you're so low.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess in a physique context, like 50 calories, burned extra in that day. They're really trying to get down to that smallest percent of body fat,
Right.
type of thing. So they're just trying to say, I'm going to throw in anything that might help.
Yeah.
But most people reading these articles, you know, they might be significantly overweight. They're not trying to be a competitive, physique athlete. They're trying to lose, 30, 40 pounds. And they're like, ooh, I'm going to try green tea. It's like, oh, no,
Yeah.
that's not
That's
a
not going to do it for you, friend.
or caffeine or
I'm
whatever.
sorry.
Just not the way to go. Any other particular hack, Amber, that like really sticks out at
Wait,
you?
I want you read the rest of the list. I'm so curious.
Oh, some of these are actually pretty good.
Okay,
Um,
so okay,
like
all right, fair.
like they talked about lifting heavy things or just
Yes,
resistance.
lifting everything.
Um,
Okay,
they talk about like just standing up more. You know how your
okay.
Apple Watch
So movement, that's good.
movement.
I'm
Yeah,
not sure. It's energy
movement is
expenditure.
I think movement is probably better than just standing up. But like
Yeah,
I know the Apple Watch is like, hey, you need to stand up. You have that on your
yeah.
Apple Watch.
I actually
Um,
don't have it on right now. I forgot to put it on.
so here's one, kind of in the vein of green tea a little bit, but like eat spicy foods.
Oh my gosh, no, it does nothing.
It says it right here, Amber. The article says it. I did
Oh,
research.
it doesn't like it does like we're talking like a fraction of a fraction percent to your metabolism. The only reason that it quote unquote does anything to your metabolism is because it naturally increases your body temperature, and but we're talking like a minute amount of time for a minute unnoteworthy amount of calorie burn. Like,
Oh my
do not,
word! Listen, this is just
yeah.
kind of funny. I mean, like it's just a long time. Listen to this. For instance, one 2016 review evaluates the effects of a basically eating peppers,
Uh-huh.
and this basically if you eat peppers would burn around 10 additional calories per meal, and it says over 6.5 years this could account for about 1 pound loss
So they
in
debunked
body
their
weight.
own metabolic boosting thing. Nice.
Say that again.
I said, so they debunked their own, or did you Google that?
No, it's the same article.
That's hilarious.
But like I guess like you know how most people like they'll just read the titles, like they just
Yes.
read the
Eat
titles.
peppers. Got it.
Here, here it's just like, oh hey, if you eat peppers, and it seems like several times a day, you'll burn 10 extra calories, and over a 6-year period of time, you'll lose a pound.
Yeah.
That's not a big mover. Now, I don't know. Just for those listening in, I
Yeah.
have not researched whether or not this is even like accurate. I don't know,
But
but I'm
oh,
just
as
reading
far
an
as how
article.
much it burns, yeah.
But here's the point: these things, these little hacks,
They
just
don't
are
do it.
not going to really make any significant move for
No.
you. Sure, if you like spicy foods, um, eat it. That's great, but like that's not really going to be a primary mover. Now, this one's a
Yep.
good one. Getting good night sleep.
That is
Sleep
a
is
good
like
one.
sleep is just like the miracle drug for anything as it relates to optimization, recovery, all that kind of stuff. If you
Yep.
don't get good sleep, it's going to throw off everything the way your body works. Okay, so now they're jumping on another one that's like green tea. Drink coffee. Says the caffeine part.
Same thing. Caffeine. Same
Same
deal. Mm-hmm.
same game. I think that's it for all that are. I
There
guess.
wasn't lemon water on there. Slightly
Hold on.
surprised.
Wait, hold on. Let me just make sure. No, it's protein, which we would agree with on the protein
Yep.
aspect. Um, okay, interesting. They have high intensity interval training.
Okay.
Um,
Again, increased energy output means that you need more fuel. So
yeah,
that's fair.
yeah, exactly. So
Oh, I love
I think
these.
that's
I
all that's
love
interesting.
debunking
Talk to us about lemon
this kind of
water.
stuff.
This is the
Lemon
miracle.
water, it's the miracle thing, guys. No, I'm just kidding. No, I love it whenever I see drink lemon water, drink fruit water. It'll boost your metabolism. No, it doesn't. Like, is it good for your liver? Is it good for your system because it has a lot of vitamins? Yeah, and that's about it. Like, it doesn't do anything for your metabolism, guys. So I'm sorry, but like these fruit waters and things that like people are selling you or encouraging, like you're gonna have all of these results. Drink chia seeds and drink this combination of lemon water, chia seeds, and
Have
apple
you
cider
remember
vinegar.
the KI berry stuff?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that back in the day? That was huge, and you like buy these pills, the KI berry pills,
And
and
you
that
know
would
what? They're
like,
great for inflammation, and they're great for all the vitamins and minerals in them.
yeah.
And again,
It's just
like
the
that's where the buck
overhype.
stops.
It's
It's
the overhype.
extremely overhyped.
Yeah.
People are wasting
So
their
here's
money on all this stuff.
so for those listening in, here's a couple ways, and Amber already alluded to some of this, but how to
Mm.
heal your metabolism after an extreme caloric deficit.
Yeah.
And I'm using this term carefully because we did talk about metabolism doesn't like really crash, but there is, in a sense, some metabolic damage that can occur when you're in a extreme diet for a long period of time. And that's why, as Amber put it, it can take months to kind of get back to equilibrium. And
Yeah.
it's not that your metabolism is broken. It's just that it's going to take a while. To use this word, it's not like it's a thinking thing per se, but to convince your metabolism you're no longer in a mode of scarcity,
Yeah.
it takes a while for it to kind of get back to
Months.
normalcy. Yes.
Yeah.
And so here's a couple of things that could help you if you feel like, man, I've done this, I've plateaued. If it hasn't been very long, here's a tip that you can use. And I hesitate to use this language because there's some psychological baggage, but
Mm,
I would recommend actually having a cheat meal.
mm.
Now, when I say cheat meal, doesn't mean that it has to be junk food per se. I just mean like go eat a big meal, like just go and enjoy something. And when you do this, it actually is a signal to your body. Oh, look, we're getting
There
all
is
the
food.
nutrients. We're getting proteins, we're getting carbs, we're getting fats, and even if it's a little bit in the excess,
Yeah.
um, if it's just one meal, it's not gonna hurt you that much. Now, the
Right.
psychological baggage of the word cheat meal. Let me just jump at this before someone hates on me on the internet.
Yeah.
Um, I get that calling it a cheat meal can put negative associations or connotations on just eating more food or even certain types of foods.
Right.
And that's certainly not what um, the perspective that we have. I did grow up through the whole like gym culture. And so some of
Yeah.
those terms die hard. I'll still kind of use like, oh, I'm going to get a cheat meal. My wife, particularly, she hates the term cheat meal. She's just like, don't call it that. Just say you're going to enjoy a fun meal or something. It'll help
Yeah.
your psychology. And I think there's a point there for sure. But what I mean is that hey, you're going to go enjoy a nice food, a nice good meal, and what it can do is just you're getting all of these nutrients and all of these macronutrients, and it can really actually make a huge difference. It can actually kind of move your metabolism back. Now, if you've been in an extreme diet for a long time, cheat meal is not going to cut it. But if you've
Right.
just been like, I do this with my clients, and I'll just go ahead and explain it. Like when somebody enters into a deficiency, they'll
Yeah.
start to lose weight. They'll start to lose weight if they've been into the deficiency longer than like around 12 weeks or 16 weeks.
Hmm.
They're basically reaching the end of like this deficiency being useful, or
Yeah.
they're getting even in a good way. I'm not talking about extreme diets. I'm just talking about a normal deficiency. If they stay in that for a long period of time, they're still going to have metabolic adaptation that's more extreme than what you would want. So, what a lot of dietitians and trainers will do is that they will have a strategic diet break. Um,
Yes.
Another way to kind of push off the strategic diet break, though, is to like, okay, I'm going down, I've plateaued. Hey, go ahead and have a cheat meal or a day where you're actually eating a little bit more calories. It's almost like bringing it back up to maintenance just for a day.
Yeah.
And you go up, and it's like your body's like, okay, we're good. We're good. We're actually getting more food. And then it's like your body allows you to continue in that losing fat phase. And I'm not kidding you. Now, this might be because I'm a guy. You can tell me if this really works well with girls. But for me, I know sometimes if I'm in a caloric deficit and I just hit this plateau with losing weight, I eat a little bit more calories and then I
Hmm.
go back on that deficiency. I end up losing like a couple more extra pounds just because
Yep.
I ate more food and my body's like, okay, I'm going to release. And some of that's water weight, just to be fair. But it does help me continue on that path. So I think cheat meals are good. I'll pause and say, is that the same for girls in experience? I would think that it's still helpful, but
It
maybe not quite as
it
helpful.
is. It depends on how extreme their eating habits were before. But
Okay.
I have done the same thing that like I can go on a deficit for about 3 weeks, then take a break for a few days and then go on another deficit, and see results. Usually my rule of thumb is, um, you follow a deficit for X amount of time, and then you go into a maintenance phase for an equal or almost equal amount of time, and then go on a deficit. But again, it kind of depends on the background of eating habits from the person and like how long have they been on a deficit before they worked with you.
That's interesting. I
Hmm.
actually like to dive a little bit more into the science of like diet breaks and how long is necessary. I'll tell
We
you what
should
I
do a
do.
whole episode. We could probably do a whole episode on like reverse diet.
That would be great. Like
Yeah.
one thing that I do with clients is like I'm getting ready to do this with like a business professional who has struggled with just losing fat and keeping it off. But I told him like we're going to go on a caloric deficit. And actually, first we're going to eat really high. We're just changing his macronutrients. We're not even in a deficiency.
Yeah.
Just changing macronutrients. Then once we have that dialed in, we're going to go on a caloric deficit. And then I said we're going to have a strategic planned diet break. And so we're going to do like 12 weeks. It's 12 or 16 weeks. I can't remember. And then we're going to do a 6-week diet break, bringing back up to
Yeah.
maintenance. And then
Yes.
we're going to do it again. And so what you should see, and this is just like I lose the weight, and let's say I lost, I'm just going to say I lost 10 pounds in the first 16 weeks, of dieting, like 10 solid pounds, not like water weight, 10 solid
Right.
pounds. Then my goal is to maintain that weight for 6 weeks. I may go up a little bit, but I'm basically trying to maintain that weight. And it's like your body's reaching a new equilibrium. Your
Yes.
metabolism is regulating the way it should. Then you do it again, another 12 to 16 weeks, diet
Yes.
break. And for those who are like 50 pounds, they need to lose 50 pounds. If you calculate this out, you'll basically do 3 cycles. I think it's 3 cycles, close to it. And with 3 cycles in a year, it might even be like more like 2.5. It ends up being like 60 weeks total, I think. You'll end up losing 50 pounds right around
Yeah.
if you do this for 3 cycles. And the results vary, of course, between people. But this is the way to sustain weight loss and also keep an account. Hey, I want to be mindful of my metabolic rate. And I don't want it to get to a place where it goes so low that I now have to take a longer time to heal it so that my body actually does, what I want it to do and lose the fat, maintain the muscle. So
Yeah.
what was a couple of things to help you heal the metabolism? One, a real quick way of doing it potentially is have a cheat meal. See what that does.
Yep.
Doesn't work? Maybe it's time for a strategic diet break. You come back up to maintenance calories. And Amber's way of doing that, maybe not just jumping back, but actually
Right.
doing a reverse dieting scheme and then holding that for, about half the time that you were on the diet, maybe
Hmm.
longer, depending on, how bad the abuse has been with your dieting. And
Exactly.
then the last thing that I would say is that you need to pick from there, especially if you've been on an extreme diet, you need to find what is a sustainable diet rather than an extreme diet. I'm not
Yeah.
going to go back to that anymore. And I'm just watching this guy that I'm following on Facebook, and he's doing like all this extreme stuff for
Yeah.
like a diet and all this kind of things. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like, does he have a plan for afterwards? As a matter of fact, I heard him even say like, man, I'm over halfway. I can't wait to be done. And I'm thinking
Mm.
like, what's going to happen? And again, I get wanting to be done from a deficiency.
Yeah.
When you're on an extreme diet and you want to try to go back to normal and you haven't adopted new life patterns around food and exercise, something that's sustainable, it's just going to be back and forth. And you're going to be messing up your metabolism in the sense of it's going to regulate and it's going to slow down, and you don't want that. So anyways, anything you want to weigh in there, Amber?
No, kind of just like to wrap this up in a pretty package is, guys, like your metabolism pretty much regulates itself again, unless you are having like issues with your thyroid and things like that. So there there are no ways to get around. You can't always blame your metabolism. You got to look at your habits. You got to look how you've been treating your body, what you've been consuming, how much or how little. Um, there are no metabolism hacks, not really. All right. Like there's just no point in spending your money on supplements and things like that. There's no point in drinking green tea all day. It honestly might be too much caffeine if you're drinking it all day. Um, and there's no magic pill, all right, to boost your metabolism. It's just how have you been treating your body? Have you been eating properly? Have you been in an extreme diet or low calories for a long period of time? Things like that. So kind of take a step back if you feel like your metabolism is quote unquote slow, and see how have I been approaching trying to get to my physique goals? How have I been approaching weight loss? And have I been a detriment to myself? And what can I do to kind of like turn that around? So that's kind of what we wanted to do. We wanted to bring these to you. We wanted to debunk a couple of things and then help you guys get on the right path with this knowledge of how to actually tackle your goals.
So instead of chasing hacks, establish healthy rhythms,
Yep.
and your metabolism will regulate itself.
Yes.
That's what you just said.
Yeah.
I really like that. I think that'll be helpful to a lot of people. Thank you so much for joining today.
Happy Monday.
And we're going to be jumping on, actually, I'm not sure what our next episode is. I think it might be on some actual fad diets. But stay tuned. It'll be fun. We'll catch you later.